Hello everyone, my name is Najma Stanford and I'm a studio art and dance joint major at Middlebury College. And the research I'm doing now is trying to investigate whether or not animation and dance can coexist and inhabit the same space. And so instead of talking about it first, I would like to show you, I guess, a little bit of what I mean. Also, it's my first animation, so I hope you guys will like it.
Breaking news. Check. Mr. Cabana, I don't think we're on yet. Mrs. Nirvana. Brain. We interrupt this programming for breaking news. Apparently we have a new person trying to do this thing called animation. But before we go into that, we're going to give you a little brief on what animation is. Cramps, we're over to you.
And breaking news it is. We're going to you live from Axon Library, home to Middlebury College's Film and Media Studies Department. The dictionary defines animation as a state of being animated or full of jubilance. There's a bigger thing going on here, and we're going to get behind it. Animation is really a series of taking frames, a series of frames and pictures, and bring them together in a sequence that they roll together and make a thing. It is important to note that there are 4 main types of animation: flipbook animation, stop motion animation, 2D animation, and 3D animation. Flipbook animation is a more primitive style of animating because it's very simplistic in nature. An artist simply takes a piece of paper or a book rather and draws in the corners of those pages, drawing a series of different actions, drawing a series of different pictures that will lead into the next action. For example, if a character is going to wave their arm like this, the artist would then have the arm placed here, 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 and here, into the rest of his body, so that when they begin to flip the book like so, or perhaps a better example would be, when they flip the book like this, you will be able to see this picture move, and it gives the impression that it is actually moving. Stop motion, on the other hand, is mostly used with toy figurines, and basically what the animator in this case will do is that they will use a camera and take pictures of the toy or the figurine in different positions. Once this is complete, the animator will then go on to use the digital editing software and put all the frames and pictures together and create a moving image. 2D animation is very similar to flipbook animation in that fundamentally it uses the same technique. The only difference between flipbook animation and 2D animation is that 2D animation is done digitally, whereas flipbook animation is done manually. Also, it's important to note that for 2D animation, there are about 24 frames per second. This does depend depending on the type of effect you're trying to load, but compared to the first 3 I mentioned before, 3D animation is a relatively new animation style, which animates using a virtual effect. Bob Godfrey, born in the year of 1921 and only passed away recently, and the holder of an Academy Award for his award-winning nomination, has commented on this very question: what is animation? He says, and I quote, "Well, animation is not live action. I think that says it. Anything that is not live action, which is actuality, but is drawn, is animation. In animation, animation, you can do absolutely everything, and I said I think that the only two restrictions are your bank balance and your mind. And, well, your imagination that you can grow, you know, providing the budget will allow you to. And when people are confronted with the absolute freedom, they tend to freak out. They tend to say, we want limitation, we want gravity. Basically, there's no gravity in animation. Animation is free, it can fly, it can go anywhere. I don't think enough people realize this. They're too earthbound. It's not earthbound, it's not. Well, I agree with Godfrey and respect him for his city, especially as a highly renowned animator. I do find a bit of trouble with what he has just said. He mentions that animation is anything that is not live action, and yes, that is very true. However, the statement is a bit troublesome because it seems as though animation cannot exist with any other field. The point of my research is to figure out whether or not animation and dance can coexist together. And that is a perfect segue to our next comment. A lot of people are questioning whether animation can segue into other fields and other disciplines. And my answer to that would be yes. If animation has no bounds, it has no limits, then I think that animation has the freedom to do whatever it wants to do. And that's I think that animation can indeed stand beside dance. The next question, though, with that said, is can animation and dance share the space in a way that they can coexist together, but having one field overpower the other? Back to you.
To dive deeper into this topic, we have invited another special guest to our newscast tonight. We have invited a Miss Condoleezza Price. And she will be talking about why this dancing and animation is so important to her, and why she must have them both together and not have them separately. Here she is.
I think the reason why it's so important to have dance and animation together is because I see them both as art forms that tell stories with the body. And I know that one is telling a story on a live action and one is telling it in a more cartoony version. But I think that there's something really great that comes together when you have different forms of language coming together in a certain different way. And I think that that's very special. And I think there are so many things that can be gained from, mixing the disciplines and really trying to go out of your comfort zone. And there's so much more that you can say with animation that you probably maybe not can always say with dance, and vice versa. So I'm just really curious in exploring all these different avenues.
If there is one thing you want our viewers to take away today from your speaking with us, what would you like that to be? Please let us know.
If there's one thing that could have everybody take away with them today, I guess it would be that, I think that there's a very, really cool way that animation and dance complement each other. I was doing some research the other day, and I came across some people who are doing some really great things in the animation industry, where when the movie Puss in Boots, a lot of people were consulting dancers, and they had the dancers dance first, and then they converted the dancers into oh goodness, the word is slipping me. They converted it into an animation. They rendered it in 3D, which is really cool and inspiring, and it's just really cool to see the way that different things, like the way that things overlap. And then another really cool example was the opposite way, where this guy did this animation, and he consulted dancers, and he made the animation off of the dancers, and it's just really cool to see how, I think it's very important. I think what I want people to take away is that great things happen when we collaborate and when we share our disciplines and share our ways of understanding the world with other people. And also, as someone who loves both dance and animation, I'm always trying to find new ways of combining my two loves together, which is why it means so much to me, and why I'm trying very hard to try and figure out how to combine them together. So I guess what I want people to take away from that, in addition to all I just said, is that this is just me, I guess, on the path of self-discovery in a certain kind of way.
And I would like to just ask another question. You mentioned earlier
Another guest of ours earlier mentioned that she didn't quite agree with Bob Godfrey because of his thing that if it is not animated, it is live action, and so on and so on. And I wanted to know, as someone who was curious in investigating the correlations between dance and animation per se, what is your take on this, and what do you think about what he said, and so forth and so forth?
Yeah, I think it's a brilliant point, and when I heard it, it stunned me. You know, it's true. I mean, if it's not animated, it's not a cartoon, and it's live action. Point blank. But at the same time, you know, I think that I'm not saying that I want them to be the same thing, and I do definitely believe there is a very clear distinction. And in no way, am I trying to, you know, I'm not trying to make them the same thing, because they're very different, and I appreciate those differences, which is why I'm here. I think what I'm more looking for is, I'm trying to figure out how to have the both worlds meet, you know? I'm trying to figure out how to present both dance and animation in a way that they complement each other. Kind of like yin and yang, you know? Like the black never overcomes the white, and the white never overcomes the black, and then the circles stay in their both respective corners, and they create this really beautiful thing, and everyone's fine because it's, you know, yin and yang. And so that's what I'm really looking for, is the balance. And I'm looking for the possibilities, you know? And it's a new field, like no one's hardly talking about it, but I want to talk about it. And maybe one day when I grow up, I'll be a dancer, and I'll be a dance major who, you know, makes dancers from animations, or an animator who makes animations based off dances. I don't know, either way. I'm looking into this because I'm really curious about what's out there, and it's so new, so there's just so much new things that can possibly come from this. And, so yeah, in terms of where I stand with Godfrey's point, I mean, he's completely right, and it's kind of hard to say. But I think one thing I will say, though, is that I think he was a little contradictory, because he says that he wants animation to be, you know, full of life, and it can do anything. And I just kind of agree with Nasha in that, you know, animation can do anything, and why can't it coexist peacefully with it?
And it is my understanding that you are going to be presenting your work to us today, giving us an example of what this is.
Well, yes, but that is correct. The name of the piece is called Dance Nation, and I'm dancing the piece with a guest artist who will be working on this together, and her name is Stanford Nasha. Thank you. I hope you guys enjoy.
say with the animation you just saw and the dancing, it's supposed to be like a little play back and forth between the animation and myself. I was supposed to be dancing the same way as the animation. I love that. And I was trying to go out my own way and do my own thing. And every time I did that, the animation would get mad at me. I'm sorry, Miss Condoleezza Price would get mad at me. And so I was trying to play a little bit with that and to explore, to kind of like prove to people, to my audience, that dance and animation can indeed stand together. And to speak more about why I'm so drawn to animation and dance. Why am I so out of breath? Sorry about that, you guys. But the reason why I'm so drawn to animation and dance is because growing up, when I was younger, I love cartoons. I'm a big anime fan, big cartoon fan. But growing up, there's not much diversity in these cartoons, and I really want to bring that when I begin making my animations and making my own character designs. Because I feel that if you can expose children to different cultures and different groups of people, from an early age in a way that's not overwhelming or like very educational, and in a way that just comes naturally, I think it kind of eases tensions that sometimes arise here on campus or here in general and in terms of society. And with dance, it's just a great way to just express yourself and to really still explore those same ideas within the movement. And so in my research, I'm really trying to find examples of people who are trying to look at animation and then create dances from that, and then people who are looking at dance and creating animations from that. So yeah, that's where I currently am now. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. And also, I do have the frames that I have, because this animation has about 270 plus frames, even though it's really simple. And I have frames with me if you want to look at them after this is over. So just let me know.
So nice.
Alright. Just be 1 second. Technology. I don't know how. Okay.
Awesome. Hi everyone, thanks for coming. My name is Jess, and I guess I first want to say that before this class, I knew very little about dance or its history. I myself cannot dance, but I was interested in the art form and wanted to learn about its foundations, so you will be hearing me talk for the next 20 minutes. I won't be dancing. Over the course of this semester, we focused a lot of our attention on dance ethnography, which is, in its most literal sense, the study of ethnic dance. But under the lens of US modern dance history, dance ethnography means learning about the groups and movements that gave form, intention, and meaning to the art form today. We talked a lot about ethnic groups and styles, like African dance, Native American dance, and so on, but I realized for the most part that we didn't hear a lot about Asian American dance. So my research was catalyzed mostly by this singular question. The question was posed by Yutian Wang, who is a dancer herself and a professor of dance and music at San Francisco University. Personally, I did not have a response, and naturally the next step was to figure out why we couldn't answer this question. My presentation will focus on this research, I'll be examining the relationship between Asian America and dance history and the attendant historical, political, and aesthetic concerns. We'll first discuss the contemporary state of Asian American cultural representations, then we'll consider the phenomena of Orientalism and minority typing. We'll look at some Asian-inspired dances by famous modern dance choreographers, and lastly, we'll look at some work by modern Asian American choreographers and discuss the challenges they're facing today. A good place to start thinking about Asian dance in the US is to observe contemporary representations of Asian culture. So I have a question for you all, and I won't change the slides until someone answers. So, can you guys think of any relevant films, music, or activities in our society that show Asian influence? Anyone? Let's go.
Yoga.
Yoga, yeah, and other things. Here, I have a list for you guys. I guess, back in the 2000s, the golden era, there was this Gwen Stefani song called Harajuku Girls. The music video featured her singing and dancing surrounded by Japanese girls dressed in Harajuku-style clothing. Another relevant one is Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill, which featured some rather stereotypical depictions of traditional Asians and their practices, as shown there. And like Octavia said, another one is yoga, which Western society has turned yoga into more of a fitness regimen than the traditional spiritual meditation and exploration that it began as. So all of these representations bring up another question. Are we appropriating Asian culture and art? What's appropriation, you say? Well, by definition, cultural appropriation is the adoption or theft of icons, rituals, aesthetic standards, and behaviors from one culture or subculture by another. It's generally applied when the subject culture is a minority culture, like Asian Americans, and somehow subordinate in social, political, economic, or military status with respect to the appropriating culture. We'll see specific examples of this subordination later on. Appropriation often occurs without any real understanding of why the original culture took part in these activities or the meanings behind these activities. This often leads to converting culturally significant artifacts, practices, and beliefs into meaningless pop culture, or giving them a significance that has a completely different context or is less nuanced than its original meaning. In fewer words, Asian art and culture is appropriated when it is stripped of its original meaning, when it is decontextualized, ahistoricized, and apoliticized. Cultural appropriation occurs as a byproduct of imperialism, capitalism, oppression, and assimilation. By imperialism, I refer to the creation and maintenance of unequal cultural, economic, and territorial relationships. Imperialism functions by subordinating groups of people and territories and extracting ideas or materials of value from the colonized people and territories. In the case of cultural appropriation, culture is treated as a natural resource to extract from the oppressed peoples. Cultural appropriation is profitable. Gwen Stefani and Tarantino and yoga studio owners, for example, they've all made a lot of money from taking ideas from Asian culture. But the problem is that they don't include Asian people. They include only objects and traditions that are seen as exotic, edgy, and desirable by the dominant culture, which translates to profits. Capitalism works best when people are similar. Once diverse cultural identities are stripped away, the only norm left to identify with is capitalist culture. Why is this bad, you ask? Well, cultural appropriation at its roots is an extension of centuries of genocide, racism, and oppression. Cultural appropriation treats all aspects of marginalized cultures as free for the taking. This is the same rationale that has been and still is used to steal land, resources, and intellectual property from these peoples. The defense of cultural appropriation is based upon the misconception that race relations exist on a level playing field, as though racism no longer exists. But systematic racism still does exist, White people have power and privilege in the society, while people of a minority status lack the same power and privilege. There cannot be an equal and free flow of ideas and practices and cultural markers between these peoples as long as one group has advantages over the other. Now that we've covered our appropriation bases, I want to put this phenomenon in conjunction with another idea called Orientalism. Western cultures justify the appropriation of Asian cultures by crystallizing Orientalism as a historical concept rather than a dynamic, active group of cultures. Furthermore, Western scholars have imparted upon themselves the authority to organize, assign, and analyze this historical empire. This mindset is wholly embodied in Edward Said's post-colonial analysis of Asian societies in his book Orientalism from 1979. And I have a very important quote there, which I'll read out loud. "The modern Orientals were degraded remnants of a former greatness. The ancient or classical civilizations of the Orient were perceivable through the disorders of present decadence, but only because a white specialist and highly refined scientific techniques could do the sifting and restricting." Not only does Said affirm that modern Asian society is a relic of itself, he goes on to claim that only by the power and authority of Western scholars can this culture distill its ancient roots. His argument serves two functions. He first delegitimizes modern Asian cultures, and secondly, he reassigns their collective status as an exotic relic through a function of white superiority nonetheless. The perception of Asian culture as a relic of a past civilization allows for the construction of the Asian body through the past. Yu Tian Wang, in her dance ethnography, choreographing Asian America, further clarifies this phenomenon with the following quote that I have there. And it says, "This is not merely a way of thinking that the Asian body produces memory and history, but that the body is historical rather than contemporary. As a result, the Oriental body can be typified and shelved. In Western culture, this practice allows for the appropriation of Orientalist movement and art forms while simultaneously allowing for the exclusion of Asian bodies. So, Asian bodies are not necessary for Orientalized body practices anymore. This claim is exemplified in the works of a lot of early modern dance pioneers such as Ruth St. Denis and Maud Allen. During their time, and possibly due to their contributions, Oriental dance experienced nationwide popularity at the beginning of the 20th century. White women at this time could inhabit various Oriental dance forms without acknowledgement or historical reminders of the actual Asian bodies that inform their works. Literature often cites that Ruth St. Denis's greatest contribution to modern dance was her ability to interpret and transform Asianness into modern art. Through St. Denis and her successors, we see the phenomenon of Orientalism erasing Asian bodies from the present by associating them with an imagined past. I'm going to show you all a clip in order to see a portion of one of St. Denis's dances. It's an excerpt from her 1932 piece called Notch, inspired by East Indian street dancers. Okay. It's a little blurry, bear with me. It's like 100 years ago. So, does anyone want to call out any influences from Asian cultures that they might see? Anybody? Just throw them right out there. Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Really badly done mudras. With the
Yeah,
hands.
absolutely.
The-
Just the Yeah.
The movement of the feet, like the environment, the costume, everything.
Absolutely. So basically the whole dance. The influences are really obvious in this one. Let's go back to the PowerPoint. So, so the influences almost don't even need to be discussed in this one. They're very blatant, and like I said, this is kind of what she was known for, interpreting these dances from East Asian cultures. All right. The legacy of cultural appropriation and Orientalism had its formative moments in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. However, this phenomenon continued long after, and still in fact continues today. But the 1960s and 1970s marks another era when Eastern aesthetics reemerged at defining moments in US dance history. Characterized as a response to the social turmoil caused by the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement, the works of Steve Paxton, Maurice Cunningham, and other postmodern choreographers are credited with revolutionizing US modern dance by deconstructing choreographic structures and inventing new movement techniques using concepts such as Tai Chi, Buddhism, and Aikido. The second half of the 1900s reaffirmed notions of the Oriental body in tandem with a continuous string of race wars fought in Asia, specifically World War II, the Korean War, and the Vietnam War. Simultaneously, major shifts in laws regarding Asian immigration took place. The elimination of the national origins quota in 1965 changed U.S. immigration patterns by opening borders to an influx of Asian immigrants who met requisites as college-educated and white-collar professionals. These immigrants, along with Japanese Americans who were rebuilding their lives after internment from World War II, form the backbone of the what's called model minority stereotype. The model minority stereotype integrates Asian Americans into U.S. democracy and capitalism by favoring publicized narratives of Asian immigrants who arrive in the U.S. with nothing and in one generation are able to assimilate themselves into the middle-class American lifestyle. The model minority stereotype is grounded in Orientalist interpretations of Asian peoples as being good with math and frugal with money. Ultimately, the model minority stereotype erases Asian American bodies by limiting the Asian American experience to narrowly defined realms of academic and economic success. By creating such a model, the U.S. satisfied its agenda of multiculturalism, but the rigidity of its presentation and standards demonstrate that the model minority type only obscures evidence of U.S. racism. It does not diminish the Orientalist phenomenon. The creation of the model minority type provided a backdrop against which white middle-class men and women reasserted the innovative supremacy of white U.S. postmodern dancers. So even though postmodern dance history embraces high modernist ideals like movement for the sake of movement, dances about choreography itself, and selective borrowing from other forms, this history closes itself off once again to the Asian American body. I have a clip here of one major postmodern dancer who I mentioned already, Maurice Cunningham, and I'll give you a short bit of it so you can kind of see what postmodern dance meant at the time, and we'll look for Asian influences again. How fun. This is called Beach Birds, by the way. So that was a really short clip. I don't know why I did that. It's fine. In that little short clip, did anybody see any influences from Asian art forms or philosophies? Yeah.
It reminded me a little of Buto in a sense because there was one piece where one of the dancers is becoming a chicken or a bird, and one of the leg movements where the dancer is shaking her leg ferociously kind of reminded me of that transformation into a chicken or a bird. So.
Absolutely. And Merce Cunningham himself said that he found inspiration from this piece from Zen Buddhism, and you can see that with a lot of the incorporation of nature imagery and the birds, and also the nature sounds in the back. Onwards. So, where does this leave the Asian dancer? Appropriation, Orientalism, and the model minority type have systematically historicized and erased the Asian body from postmodern and modern dance vocabularies. American dance aesthetics must be wholly westernized in order to maintain the binary between the West as a source of continuous renewal and the East as some sort of repository for traditional material. A quote by Yutian Wang captures the essence of the problem, I think, and it says, while white Western choreographers can mask appropriation through accounts of inspiration, Asian American performance aesthetics are stereotyped as attempts to fuse or blend incompatible Eastern and Western sensibilities. All right. To illustrate this fact, we're going to look at the last clip I have, which is a work of a modern Asian American choreographer, and then we're going to look at the critical reviews of the piece, which reveal a lot of the tensions that I've been talking about. This dance is called The Way by Saeko Ichinohe. This is one dance in a series of dances, and we're going to talk about the whole series, not just this piece in specific. All right. And here are the reviews. I'll read them. These are just excerpts. The first one had something like, one might dare to call it spiritual. All of the dancers had great inner stillness, which doesn't refer to this piece in specific, but one in the series. And another review said, it was a strange combination of ancient Japanese and Asian movements with a lucidly clear modern dance technique, ageless mysteries of ancient Asian cultures. So, as you can see from the reviews, despite the fact that minimalism and stillness have been attributed to Asian aesthetic influence in modern dance, the reviewers insist on maintaining and highlighting that the two traditions are somehow different. Reviews and interpretations such as this occur not just for Ichinohe, but many contemporary Asian American choreographers. They are not considered to be continuing an American tradition. Reviewers see the Asian bodies through the stereotype of that silent, bodiless model minority. There are no contradictions, however, between the aesthetics and national identity when white postmodernists are reviewed. No one claims that Merce Cunningham or Steve Paxton or Martha Graham is exploring a national identity that is not completely and wholly American. The paradoxical nature of modern dance's adoption of Oriental practices and simultaneous disavowal of Asian bodies has created a problem that the dance community needs to address and actively combat. In order to make way for Asian American choreographers, we must understand the implicit influences of Asian form within modern dance, and we must deconstruct the Orientalist model minority type which has been assigned to Asian bodies. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
Hello. I'm just gonna, can you guys hear me right here?
Yeah.
It just feels easier to talk, not behind that. So I'm talking about voguing, and like the history of voguing and ballroom culture. So I'll kind of explain what that is, but I first want to start out by kind of creating a baseline for voguing. So voguing was created in the 1960s in Harlem in gay Black and Latino communities. And it kind of originally took the styles and the posings from fashion magazines, from this mainly white, kind of more wealthy culture, and then kind of reinterpreted them into this movement style of poses and of runway walks and of catwalks that kind of like put that into their context for what they maybe couldn't have and also what they had. So it was bringing two of those kind of things together. So I'm going to start with a clip by dancer and voguer Deshaun Wesley, who vogues today.
There's a difference between knowing how to vogue and know why. I can look on YouTube and see a catwalk and a double and know how to do it. But to know why I do it because it makes me feel like I'm worth this, or I mean, I feel like I got more nails or more hair, someone to toss the back, or, I just want to throw a hit, so I do it because I feel like that. It's really about knowing why you do it, and some people sort of miss the concept. You're going to create this persona of, sassy or funny, like, just be who you are, and the vocal will accept you.
So, I thought that was an interesting way to kind of start out my presentation, because I'm somebody who really found out about voguing mostly through like YouTube videos online and through like dancing like late night with my friends DJing, kind of outside of the context of the original ballroom. So I didn't grow up in this community. I'm not I'm a white man, not Black or Latino, from this community. So it's kind of, I wanted to use it in my choreography, and I wanted to feel like, why is this important to me? And first I had to ask those questions of how can I tell this story, or how can I incorporate my story into the larger story of voguing. So before I kind of go into that, I'm going to give some background info on the history of voguing and ballroom culture. It's a vital function in building and radically redefining communities, and also the role of Vogue performance and the deconstruction of gender. So first, to kind of set things off, I'm going to be viewing voguing as a language of artistic expression and ritual that has constantly evolved throughout time. So as I mentioned, it started in the 1960s, kind of in drag communities in Harlem, gay, trans, Black and Latino communities. And then, so it originally started, with these model poses, right? And dancing from there. But it's also always held specific ritual structures and kind of specific community structures as it's changed, evolved throughout time. It's incorporated many different dance styles kind of into the canon. So voguing battles, really, where like two people or more than two people battle each other out on the dance floor or on the catwalk, are held at balls, hence ballroom culture, where different houses converge to kind of one-up each other in glamour and physical prowess and exaggerated performances of femininity and masculinity. And so the houses are really these redefinitions of family structure for these trans and gay youth, often rejected from their families in heteronormative society. So it's so like basically like white America is saying, okay, you don't belong here, and then like heteronormative Black America or heteronormative Latino America is also saying you don't really belong here either. So then basically everybody's telling you that you don't belong. So you really have to create the cultural labor yourself to really create an authentic and true culture for yourself, which I think that's one of the things that I think is most amazing about voting, is really people who didn't have any culture that represented them, just like starting from the ground, creating a space for themselves and empowering themselves. So mothers of these houses are traditionally older trans women or gay men who kind of create the support structure for the children of the house. So maybe like they can house them for a while if they're homeless before they can get a steady gig. They can help them find a job. They help them with their costume, etc. And so the houses compete against each other inside these familial structures. So really, in a ball, which I've never been to, but this is kind of through watching YouTube videos and reading descriptions of other people who have been to balls, dancers come out on the floor bringing everything they have, bringing their life, bringing their blood, their masculinity, their femininity. They can dress up in whatever way they want to. And then they kind of like start creating this form of dance that's inspired by rituals and dance styles from the African diaspora, from capoeira, from ballet, from martial arts. There's a lot of really different styles. So I'm going to show you a clip from a ball in the 90s as I talk about some more about what other influences of voguing. So there's really 5 main categories of language. So first there's like the runway walk, walking down the runway, and then there's hands performance, which is all about the hands. There is duck walk, which I can't do because of my injuries, but I can kind of do it on the floor. Go there. So there's the hand performance there. There's also floor performance, kind of do whatever you want on the floor. And then there's the death drop, there's the spin, and then the drop, which I can't really do from my injuries, but you can kind of see a lot of these things here. So this is kind of some floor performance. And as voguing has evolved, also the categories in which members and performers compete have also changed. So originally it was drag, then it became about models, and then you can really switch it up. So here, there's the old way, which is more about the poses, and then there's the new way, which kind of incorporates all of these more like faster elements. There's Vogue Femme, there's Butch, Queen, First Time at a Ball, there's Manji Kun, there's, I don't know, I was thinking my category for tonight would be like Butch Clown Realness or something. Yeah, so there's all these different categories. And if you don't really fit a category, you can always create another one yourself. And I think that that's what's so cool in the way that voguing deconstructs gender. Is it's saying, I can either be masculine with these feminine features, or I can be feminine with these masculine features, or I can be anything in between. And it's up to me to decide. So voguing came into the public eye most prominently through the 1990 film Paris is Burning, and then also through Madonna's voguing video, which came right after that. So the voguing video has been described as problematic because it kind of takes it out of its original culture and just kind of makes it about, Madonna, like doing her thing with not really like including voguers and not really talking about ballroom community at all. And Paris is Burning is also, it's a really wonderful movie that I recommend that you guys all should see. But it also kind of describes voguing at one particular place in one particular time in one particular context. So voguing, so Paris is Burning really focuses a lot on kind of like this like appeal to white beauty and to white glamour that can exist in the ball sometimes. And then it's been criticized by people like Bell Hooks and then also a few other people that it focuses a lot on kind of this like appeal to like what these performers like didn't have in terms of this glamour. When other films such as Tongues Untied, which is a documentary in the 90s that is, it uses poetry to describe the black male experience and puts voguing more as like this fierce tribe of warriors who are historically silenced, and then they're taking over and they're creating their space. So it's like kind of, Paris is Burning, it has been criticized that it doesn't put that narrative as much in there, and it kind of like focuses more on this appeal to white standards of beauty. And then so since then it's kind of been forgotten a lot by white mainstream media. But like more recently, there's a lot of Vogue artists who are saying, well, the voguing has still been here this entire time, it hasn't stopped, and here's some things that people are doing now. So artists like Rashad Newsom has used voguing in a performance at the Whitney Bicentennial, where he mixes opera music with DJs and with announcers who at the balls are kind of like these rappers / commentators or like shouting things into the microphone. All these dancers are just like giving their life, and so that's combining like the high art and the low art and what he does. And then there's DJs like Mike Q who travel all around the world, bringing this to different places, creating a much more faster and much more hard-hitting beat that originated from the Ha Dance, which is an early Vogue track, and almost all of these new ballroom tracks include a sample from that early track. So the space is continuing to define itself, and everybody makes the Vogue their own. But bringing it back to the original question, like now that voguing is a worldwide phenomenon, like how does one interact with the art form authentically? So I'd like to bring a quote in from DJ Rizla, who incorporates ballroom into his music. And he says, "I feel like holding yourself accountable for originality is essential nowadays, because it's so easy to be influenced by everything around you. People don't ask themselves why enough. Why did I make this? Why should it be in the public domain?" So I've kind of thought about that question a lot in my research, and I really found that there's several things I think are incredibly significant about this culture. The way it has radically redefined community and performance space for folks who don't fit in or don't have access to what is already there, that it gives freedom for gender expression, and that it's a language with a storytelling capability that allows for anger, seduction, validation, fun, empowerment, and it's music that creates late-night transcendence and freedom. So never having been to a ball, I hold a lot of appreciation for the art form, but I've never really seen it in its original context, which I think is important for really like interacting or getting to know a culture. So I think in a respectful and non-tokenizing way, I would really love to go to a ball. I think that would be the next step of my exploration. Maybe we can have a ball at Middlebury Sunday. I think that'd be pretty wild. Also, shameless plug, the DJ that I just talked about, Rizla, is performing here on Saturday night as part of a larger concert, and it's going to be awesome, and y'all should come. It's at the Bunker. This guy, who's also Adam Kelly, who's collaborating with me on my dance section of this presentation, will also be opening that at 10 p.m. So I'm going to do a quick little costume change, and end this with the performance. Yes. Ooh. Have any questions about the presentation or the dance? That's cool. It's been a long night. Thanks, guys.